The victim and the victimizer. There are two kinds of people in this world, as far as I'm concerned. The selfish and the community-minded. Singular and plural. One system that has conquered the masses, irregardless of the color of your skin, except for to the extent of cruelty and oppression heaped upon dark Africans. And we learn by repetition. And this is why this system has existed so long. So my brothers and sisters, family and truth seekers, whether we like it or not, we are all connected. But today, we must confront a story older than America itself. A story written in chains and blood, in stolen lands and in stolen labor. A story that begins with colonialization, passed through slavery, mutates into capitalism, and today stands before us as the system we know as white supremacy. So let me be clear. This system has always needed two characters to survive, the victim and the victimizer. Let me be clear. Without the victim, there is no wealth to exploit. Without the victimizer, there is no structure to enforce exploitation. There are two sides of the same coin, working in tandem, consciously or unconsciously, to build and sustain oppression. When the colonizers set foot on African shores, on indigenous lands, they came with the Bible in one hand and a gun in the other. They said, this is the word of God, while they stole the land from under your feet. Religion was not just faith, it was a weapon, and either you believed or you died. The law was not just, it was a chain. Lies became the truth through repetition. And the media of that time, pamphlets, newspapers, and later radio, painted the enslaved as subhuman, the colonized as savages, so that the world would not and would look away, while crimes against humanity were carried out in broad daylight. Now, let's see, and let you hear who the true savages were.
Savages! You're pushing us to the limit. And what do I mean by that? You're asking us to talk about history, the history of the South. This is in Georgia. What happened in Georgia? There were savages in Georgia. It was the ancestors of the white right-wingers. They were absolute savages. They murdered people, they lynched people, they raped people, they enslaved people. They took babies from their mothers and sold them as property. You want to talk about savages? Your ancestors were the biggest savages the world has ever seen. And so don't you dare call a black man a savage after you murdered him. Don't you dare do that. I'm so sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers in the South, who has hundreds of years of history of being savages.
Savages. Who was the real savage? I think we knew all along. But family, this and thus system did not stop when chains were broken. Slavery transformed into Jim Crow, into mass incarceration, into redlining, into low wages, into ghettos built by design. Capitalism did not heal, it evolved. It found new ways to turn bodies into profit, new ways to keep us distracted and divided, new ways to sell us back the very freedom that was stolen. Who's the savage? And what about today? Look around. The media tells us racism is over, but our communities bury children killed by the police. They tell us the law is blind, yet prisons overflow with black and brown men for crimes that others walk away free every day. They tell us religion teaches love, but pulpits are used to justify wars and keep people docile and broke. They tell us democracy is fair, but gerrymandering, voter suppression, and corporate money have corrupted the ballot box, and we all know this is the truth. But some more truth is that white supremacy is not just a ghost of the past. It is alive and kicking. Well, it operates both in the shadows and in our faces. In the shadows, it hides in the boardroom, think tanks, surveillance programs, and secret deals that strip our communities of resources. It hides in places like the south of France. It hides in places that are mansions. It hides in corporate America. It hides right in front of your face. And in our faces, it shouts racial slurs at ball games. It kneels on the necks in broad daylight. It bans books that tell the truth. It passes laws to erase our very history from classrooms and don't talk about DEI and taking black history, which is human history, out of the museums. Now here is where the word woke comes in. They mock it, they twist it, they try to make it sound dirty because they know its true meaning is dangerous to the system. To be woke is simply to be awake, to see with clear eyes the system around us. But being woke is not enough. We must be willing to face ignorance, not only in the oppressor, but both in ourselves and in our communities. Because knowledge, not even evenly distributed, just because you know does not mean your brother knows, your sister knows, your children know, and until we wake everybody up, the system continues. And let me tell you something else. You know don't mean that your brothers and your community knows. This is what I mean by when I talk about selfish and community-minded. That means education is not just a duty, it is liberation. We must teach, repeat, and teach again. Because repetition has always been a weapon. Oppression was drilled into the world with lies repeated 1,000 times until they became accepted as truth. So why in the hell would you get mad at me for reminding you of your condition, of what's going on? But now we must weaponize repetition for freedom. Repeat the truth until it becomes unshakable. Repeat the history until it cannot be erased. Repeat our worth until our children never doubt it. So where do we stand as victims? We are victims when we believe the lies that say we are powerless. We are victims when we internalize hate, when we turn on each other, when we mistake survival for freedom. But here is the danger. Victims can be recruited to do the work of the victimizers, just like the toms that's in government, in your community, in your family. It might be in you. Colonized minds can enforce colonizer rules. This is why some of us climb ladders built by white supremacy only to pull a ladder up behind us. That is why some of our leaders dying at the table of the oppressor, while our children starve, especially in Africa and even here. We must understand that the victim and the victimizer exist in a relationship. And only when we break that relationship, only when we refuse to play the game, our assigned roles, can the system collapse. The media, the lies, the religion, the law, all these four walls of a prison built around us and our bodies, but around our minds the most. And to dismantle this system, we must break down those walls with truth, unity, and with courage. So today I say to you, do not be deceived by the smiles that hide daggers. Do not be pacified by half-truth and promises of reform. This is not a time for comfort. It is a time for clarity. This is not the time to beg for change. It is time to demand it, to embody it, to live it. Because the greatest fear of the powerful is not our anger. It is our awakening. It is our unification. It is when victims refuse to be victims, when the oppressed reclaim their voice, and when silence power speaks truth to power. It is not time to beg nothing. This is when the house of white supremacy begins to tremble.